All right. So you have gone through the Ross chapter 38 material. It is time to pay the piper and do the homework. So let's take some time to go over these exercises here and see what sort of questions you have. So where can we start? Well, we'll start with the parsing. It's always good to start with the parsing questions and then go to the translation exercises. So have at it. Which ones you want to go through?
Could you do number 9, please, Dr. Marshall?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at number 9 here. Okay, so we have here a couple of things. What you're always wanting to try to do is to try to identify root letters if you can find them. Sometimes there's a bunch of consonants, though, and it's kind of hard to figure out where's my root versus what are prefixes and suffixes and pronominal suffixes and that sort of thing. But you sometimes may find it easier to start on the extremities and to work your way in towards the root also. So if you, for example, look at the front end here, you have a hey, okay? This hey could be a number of different things. We've seen heys that are article heys, right? We've seen heys that are interrogative heys. And this actually follows what we know about an interrogative hey. Interrogative hey is usually prefixed with a compound schwa to a word at the beginning of a sentence. And then we also have heys that belong to verbs as part of their stem prefix. And we just went through those like right up here. The stem prefix hey is found in the hifil, the hofal, and the nifal, right? So since we're dealing with the verb chapters, the interrogative hey is probably not as likely. Let's assume that it's not an interrogative hey, but that it is a prefix hey. Then I've got a hifil, hofal, or nifal possibility. If this mem is the first root letter, the next root letter I have is a tav, then there's a kirik yod in between those. So I have possibly a root with a mem and a tav, and a kirik yod in the middle with a possible hifil, hofal, or nifal stem. Which one of those stems is going to more characteristically have a kirik yod in the middle of it? The hifil, okay? Hifils like kirik yods and other I-class vowels sandwich in between roots 2 and 3. Now, if this is a hollow verb, I don't have 3 roots. I just have 2. So the kirik yods and I-class vowels will go between the 2 roots, all right? So what I have to ask myself is this possibly a hollow verb? And if it is it a middle vav or a middle yod? Based on your lexicon, do we have these 2 consonants with a semivowel in between? Yeah, we do. And it's the verb mut, right? It's middle vav. But it doesn't matter whether the hollow verb is middle vav or middle yod. In the hifil, it's going to get a kirik yod in the middle, okay? So because that's just part of the hifil stem. So if that's the case, I have my hifil hey accounted for, and I have my roots accounted for. What's left is this hu dangling on the backside, and that doesn't look like any personal ending that I've ever seen. Shurik by itself would be a personal ending, but not hu. Hu must be something else. What is it? Yeah, that's a pronominal suffix. Which person, gender, number pronoun is that?
3ms.
That's right. So what we've just seen with both of these in 8 and 9 is that we have 2 different forms of the 3ms pronoun that can be attached to things, right? So who is another 3ms pronoun? This is the one that can be attached as a direct object pronoun. This is the form of the 3ms pronoun that often gets attached to nouns. And remember, the infinitive is a verbal noun. And so infinitives are going to use the same pronouns that you would often attach to the singular noun. Okay, so this means that the 3ms pronoun is a direct object pronoun. Somebody is doing something to him. Okay, now here's what we have to go back to So this is a Hifil something, and there's no personal ending after the tav of the last root letter. So this is either 3ms or 2ms, depending on whether it's the Hifil perfect or the Hifil imperative. Okay, we've got some possibilities there. So let's jot that down. So Hifil perfect or Hifil imperative. Now, if it's imperative, it's 2ms. If it's perfect, it's 3ms. Okay. Now, there's one other thing here that we can look at to try to gain some traction on which way to go with this, and what's that? Well, okay, I mean, we have vowel reduction here, right? So what would the Hifil perfix hey prefix look like in the unreduced form, like the uninflected form? Here, we'll go back to our weak verb paradigm. So using kum here as our paradigm verb, mut's going to follow the same pattern here. In the Hifil perfect, it's hey kim. Do you see that sere under the hey? Yeah? You see that? Okay. But it's reduced. It's had to become a vocal shiva because the accent has shifted to the left, and when you shift your accent further away, that leaves the hey open and propertonic. It reduces the vocal shiva. And look, so whenever that happens, I get this compound shiva. In other words, the compound shiva is going to obscure whether that was a sere or whether it was something else. Now, if you look at the imperative, it's ha came, ha kimi, ha kimu, and ha kamna. Here, I've got hays, but with an A-class vowel, okay? But if I add a pronominal suffix to one of these forms, it's going to pull the stress to the back, and this is also going to go to a compound shiva, okay? So that's going to obscure whether I started with a sere or a kamet. So I can't look at that to know whether this is a Hifil perfect or a Hifil imperative, okay? So what do I do? What do I look for? Is there any other help? What's the answer key tell you? So what's the answer key tell you? Well, what I was just on was the weak verb paradigms at the end of the Ross textbook. He has a page devoted to the hollow verbs. Okay, but I'm serious. You guys have the answer key? What's the answer? Imperative. Now, what is the clue that this is an imperative and not a perfect? Yes, the last vowel before the pronominal suffix. Remember, when we have perfect verbs and imperative verbs, and we're adding pronominal suffixes to them, which helping vowel do perfect verbs like to take before the pronominal suffix? What vowel class? I know this was a long time ago. They like A-class helping vowels. And the imperatives and the imperfects, when we have no inflectional ending but then a direct object attached after the third root letter, they like I-class helping vowels before the direct object pronominal suffix. So this sere here that you're seeing, that is really the big helper there. It's a helping vowel, not just in terms of providing a connecting vowel, but it's a helping vowel in the sense that it helps you parse this. Okay, so that is that's the answer. It's hifil, imperative, 2ms plus the 3ms pronominal suffix. Now let's think about what mut means in this form. What does mut mean in the cal stem? To die. Okay, it's intransitive. There's no direct object. He died. Kaput. End of story, right? No direct object. In the hifil, it makes that verb transitive. To cause someone to die means to do what? To kill. Exactly. And here, I would expect a direct object. He killed someone, right? But this is an imperative, so I'm not saying something as a matter of fact. I'm actually commanding something to be done. So how would you translate hamitehu? Kill him. I told you Hebrew is a violent language back in the beginning of Hebrew, didn't I? Here it is. Kill him. Hamitehu. Okay, very good. By the way, if you're ever walking around in Israel and the word goy is used in your hearing, they're talking about you. Okay, you know what goy means, right? Right. So if you ever hear somebody yell goy and then hamitehu, run. That's what you do. Run. Okay? You have been forewarned.
Dr. Marston, do you recall what chapter the helping verb distinctions could be reviewed in?
Oh, yeah. So that is chapter 24.
Thank you.
Yep. A mere 14 chapters ago. All right. Good. All right. Hey, look at number 10. Number 10's an easy one. Hakeem. Hakeem. So, how many root letters do I have, and do I have a prefix here? So I have Kof and Mem, right? And the hey is the prefix hey. Which stem are we looking at when I have a hey prefix and a Kirik Yod theme vowel in the middle? That's looking very hifilish, isn't it? Now, I've got what vowel class is under that hey, that hifil hey? Is it I or A class? It's I. That's right. And that tells me that this is a hifil perfect, right? Even your strong verb principal part sheet tells you that. You have hifil heys in several of the hifil forms where the hey is visible, but the only place where the hey gets an I class vowel is the hifil perfect. Everywhere else, the hey is always A class, right? So hifil perfect, and then I have zero ending. So which person, gender, number is zero ending on a perfect conjugation form? 3ms. Yes, 3ms. So very easy. The last thing I need to know is what goes in between these two root letters that I see. A shurik or a kirik yod. Is this middle vav or middle yod? Yeah, based on your lexical form, it's kum. It's middle yod. Middle vav, sorry. So kum. Now, what does kum mean in the cal stem? To arise, to stand. Okay? Hifil, it's going to make it causative. To cause someone to arise or stand. So, what are some ways to translate this verb? He, what? He raised, maybe, right? Because it's going to take a direct object. So it's not that he was sitting and he got up, but rather he caused something to stand up, rise up, go up. Okay, so he raised up, he established something, like there's a pillar lying on the ground and he picked it up and stuck it in the hole, right? He established it there, or something like that. Your kid is screaming and throwing a temper tantrum and rolling around on the floor, kicking his legs, and you take that 15-year-old and you make him stand. No, I'm just kidding, not a 15-year-old. Hopefully you don't have any 15-year-old to do that. But you take that toddler and you may have to cause him to stand, right? So you could perform this verb on your child. All right, there you go. Other questions?
I don't need you to really go through it, but the answer key says perfect.
Oh, really? My answer key for number 11 has perfect for Ratzim. Oh boy.
Yes.
Oh, that's bad. Okay, so yeah, you guys should know that this is not the perfect of the verb, but the what? It's the participle. This "im" ending here could not be any other verb form than a participle, because only participles take the noun and adjective endings 0, a, t, im, and ot. Remember our Three Blind Mice song? You're trying to forget it, aren't you? Yes. So 0, a, t, 0, a, t, im, and ot, im, and ot. Okay, I'll stop there. All right, so only participles do that. So that means I'm left with rots. Okay, what's rots? There's a couple of possibilities. If this is the verb roots, which means to run, and it's hollow, then when I just have the simple kamets, that could actually be two possibilities, right? That could be the cal perfect, 3ms, or the cal participle, masculine singular. These forms are identical to each other. So you are accustomed to seeing a holum for your cal participle, right? Pokad, holech, shomea, and so forth. But with hollow verbs, you don't get any holums. Okay, it is just a long a vowel between roots, the two root letters. So rots is running and ratzim is running, but it's describing masculine plural. So this is a cal participle masculine plural here, okay? So how would we translate 11? Anachnu is what? We. And is there a copula between these two forms? There's an implied one, right? So we need to add R. We are ratzim, running. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this to you in the past or not, but this is the lexical form of the verb roots. And I remember this really struck me as a kid back when I don't know how old I was. I think I was elementary school when the TV miniseries Roots came on. This was a long time ago. Some of you will remember it because you've been around that long. But the opening scene of Roots, if I remember correctly, was an African being chased by some slave catchers, and he's running. And then, the word roots shows up. And I didn't know at the time, but the Hebrew word for, running was roots. So, but I've always had that strong association from my childhood memory. Anyhow. Any other questions?
Dr. Marshall?
Yep.
So this is obviously the hollow verb chapter, but is it that first A vowel under the resh that tells us that it's not ratzah?
The first A vowel. Tells you. Okay, I see. So like you're thinking maybe, is it possible that this was a verb like ratzah that's 3 hey?
Right.
Oh, okay. Yes, exactly. So if you had a verb ratzah that were 3 hey, the cal participle would be ro say. This would be the masculine singular, rotse. And then to make it masculine plural, what would I do? I would chop off the vowel with the mater and just add the eem. So it would be rotseem. So you're right. This would be there, that holum. And so, really get this. Up to this point, every cal participle, active participle that we've seen is it's gonna have a holum or a holum vav. So this is that one difference there. Yeah, very good. Let me draw your attention to number 12 real quickly here. We have guru. Okay, this is what I am. This is a noun, proper noun. Dr. Marshall, guru. No, I'm just kidding. So how many consonants do I have here? I only have 2, don't I? So this is a good candidate for being a hollow verb with just 2 root letters. Gimel, resh. If it is a hollow verb, then it's either middle vav or middle yod. So what does your lexicon tell you, or your vocab list, about verbs that have a gimel and a resh? What's the lexical form? Gur. And what does gur mean? To sojourn. That's right. To sojourn. How many of you remember that Joseph sojourned in Egypt, and wait a minute. No, I'm sorry, not Joseph. Moses sojourned in Egypt, and one of his children's name was Gershom. And that G-E-R, first half of the name, is related to this verbal root, gur, because it has to do with sojourning. Okay? Now, here's what I want you to see. So this is guru. I've got a shurik on the back side of the last root letter. So when you see shurik, what are your possibilities? Which conjugation patterns have a shurik personal ending? Does the perfect? Yep. Third common plural if it's perfect, right? Imperfects do, but here's the question. Are there any imperfect nutty prefixes before root 1? No. So I don't even have to write down imperfect here, do I? But what other forms have no prefix but the same imperfect suffixes? The imperative do, right? And so this could be an imperative, and if it's imperative, which person, gender, number? 2MP. Excellent. And that's pretty much it, okay? So here's my question. Which one of these is it going to be? What we need to know is it perfect or imperative? And then is it cal, nifal, pl, right, hifil, and their passive counterparts? If this is a perfect verb, actually here, let me back up. We notice that there's no prefixing here, okay? So in the perfect of all of your verbs, look at your principal parts page and just go to the perfect form for each one. How many of your stems have no prefixing for their perfect conjugation pattern? Well, I mean, there are stem prefixes associated with perfect in some of the stems, right? 3. There are 3 stems that do not have any prefix attached before root 1. Which ones are they? Cal, PL, pual. Okay, cal, PL, pual do not have a prefix in their perfect. Okay? All right. So if this is a perfect, it could only be cal, PL, or pual. Okay. We are going to see as we start reading Ruth and start looking at more verbal forms that the hollow forms do not occur in the PL and PUAL. They actually follow a modified pattern. So if this is a perfect, it could only be the CAL if it's hollow. All right. Now look at your imperative forms on your principal parts. Which stems or how many stems in the imperative have no prefixing? Take a good look. Which one? Is that the only one? There's two. That's right. What's the other one? The CAL and the PL. So if this is CAL and PL, it's only it's imperative, right? So now I just told you that in the hollows we don't have PLs. We don't have hollows that follow a true PL pattern. So either way here, if it's perfect or imperative, there's really only one possibility for these, right? It's only CAL. Now, I still have to figure out which conjugation pattern it is. Is it the perfect or is it the imperative? So how can I tell the difference? What am I going to look for?
We know that it drops out in the CAL perfect, that middle.
That's right, exactly. The middle vav is never visible in the CAL perfect. What vowel am I always going to get? I'm going to get that kamets if it's an active verb. Okay. So it would be gar for he sojourned and garu for they sojourned. Okay. It's the imperfect and the imperatives where the middle letter shows up as a mater. Ya, gur would be the imperfect. And if I want to get the imperative, I take the prefix and I chop it off. And I'm left with gur, which is what the form is. And now I'm adding the 2MP personal ending there. Okay? So this is the CAL imperative 2MP. Garu would have been the CAL perfect 3CP. So just wanted you to be able to think through that, see the difference between the perfect and the imperative, and also to remember that there aren't a whole lot of forms in Hebrew that have no prefixing at all when you're looking at the entire verbal system.